Hello everyone, this is AlezierChess here to help you to realize your potential. And today we're going to be looking at a game I played against a 2388 on lichess a few hours ago. Let's get into it. In the game I opened with e4, my opponent played the Sicilian, and I played my trusted Mora gambit, takes c3, and he declined the Mora, and I played pawn to c4, going into a Maroczy Bind. Here, after knight to f6, attacking my center pawn, I developed my right squared bishop and recaptured the gambited pawn. And here my opponent plays pawn to d6. Pawn to d6 threatens that if I play knight to f3 right away, he'll play bishop to g4, dumping off his right squared bishop. And because I have a space advantage, I have no desire to allow him to trade pieces so early. So I want to keep pieces on, so I play the move h3 to prevent bishop to g4. Now, after a6, now I comfortably develop my knight to the f3 square, now that his bishop can't pin it and trade it off. And now he plays e6, and I play knight to c3, controlling the center. There's no need to castle right away because I'm not in any danger. And here he plays queen to c7. Now, after pawn to b3, pawn to b5, I cannot take on b5 because my knight on c3 will hang with check. So instead, I castle, and after bishop to b7, hitting my pawn on e4 for a second time, he's threatening b4 and then potentially capturing the pawn. So I play rook to e1, which also lines up against his king on the e-file in case the center opens. So it also prevents ideas such as pawn takes pawn, bishop takes, and any sort of d5 shenanigans, because that's just positional suicide. So instead, after rook e1, he plays knight bd7. And here, according to the engine, I should have jumped in with knight to d5 and played this position like Tau, because after bishop e7, knight d4, takes, hitting the bishop, take back, g6 to prevent knight to f5, bishop h6, and this position is 0.5 in white's favor, because black has big problems coordinating his pieces. The rooks have trouble getting into the game. He can't castle kingside because it's illegal. Castling queenside drops the bishop on e7, so then he's just in major trouble because his king position will be wide open, combined with the fact he'll be giving the piece back, so he won't even have the piece for the problems that he has. The right squared bishop has problems getting active because of the pawn on d5, and rook to b1 is coming at some point. There's ideas like queen to a4, pinning the knight on d7, queen e2, doubling up on the bishop on e7. There's just too many problems in this position. There's also ideas of, say, queen e2 and knight c6. So there's just too many problems for black to deal with. But again, you have to be willing to play like Tau and give up material here. Instead of knight d5, I played the normal bishop to b2. And after b4, I most definitely need to play knight to d5 here, again for the same or similar reasons. Although the bishop will now be on this line, he still can't castle kingside in the event of bishop e7, as he would drop the bishop on e7 in the following lines. But I played knight to a4, which is a missed opportunity, but the position is still fine. I'm still technically equal here. It's 0.2 in my favor. And after bishop to e7, I brought the rook to c1, finishing up my development. And here, my opponent castled. Now, here I played bishop to b1, but there was an opportunity here to play a3. And if takes, bishop takes, and now I have pressure due to this pin against the bishop on e7. So in response to a3, if you turn the engine on, a5 should be played, and then knight to d4 in order to utilize the b5 square immediately. And he can respond with knight to c5, and after knight b5, hitting his queen, I'll be able to trade off his knight on c5 and the game would continue. But here, I played bishop to b1, and my plan was to play for queen d3 and e5 to go on an attack against his king. He played rook to c8. I played queen d3, which the computer doesn't like. Again, queen d2 idea is hitting the b pawn if possible. It's also possible to play for a3 ideas, but queen d2 would be the best according to the engine. Here, I played queen d3, and he has the opportunity to shut down my dark squared bishop by means of e5, because even though the d5 square is quote-unquote weak, the problem is my knight on a4 has no means of relocating into the d5 square, and it'll take too long for my knight on f3 to get into d5 by means of knight d2, f1, e3, d5. It's 4 moves to get there. So it's not that important that the square is given up when it shuts out this piece, and this piece has no means of getting into the game right now. It's simply guarding the c5 square. So here my opponent though played queen to b8, and after e5 he cannot play bishop takes knight due to pawn takes knight, hitting his bishop, hitting this bishop, and threatening mate. And in the event of knight takes, bishop takes knight, again I'm threatening mate and I'm threatening both of his bishops, so this position is dead lost for black. Instead, after e5, he takes, and then after I take, here he has to find the only move to stay alive, which is rook fd8. There's nothing else that's as good, because here g6 runs into knight takes knight, hitting the queen, hitting this knight with check, and after knight takes, queen takes, his dark squared bishop hangs, and I'll have time to evacuate my queen and not get it trapped. So that would be a completely winning position. Rook fd8 now is not helping because of knight takes knight as a check, or knight takes queen. Both will lead to white being up material. But instead of rook fd8, he played queen to d6. And in case you're wondering why he can't play knight takes knight, because after bishop takes, I'm hitting his queen, and after she moves, this bishop takes knight, and here I'm threatening mate. If g6, I'm just going to take this bishop, and after bishop takes g2, you wish that your bishop and your queen were in the opposite order. So here, after queen d6, the move played in the game, there was queen takes, bishop takes, knight takes, and rook cd1, centralizing the rook and skewering these two pieces. Now if the bishop moves, the knight hangs, and if the bishop stays there, it's going to come under attack. Rook c6 is not going to help due to bishop e4 skewering these two pieces, and the rook's going to hang, and you don't even have rook b6 to try to protect the bishop, not only because I could take on b7, but because I could pop the rook with this knight on a4. So here, my opponent played knight c5. I took the free bishop, he took back, the knight on a4, and I take, and I've won a piece, and he gets my pawn. My structure on the queen side is destroyed, but that's no longer important. Bishop to d3, again, skewers the pawn on a6. His rook is evicted from my house, and after rook c7, bishop takes, bishop to d5. Now he's going after the a2 pawn, but that's okay, I can let him have it. After bishop to d3, I'm stopping his rook from having any infiltration points in my house. So after bishop takes a2, I just push little Johnny down the board. Rook c5, a6, rook a5, rook to a1, creating a pin on the a2 bishop to the a5 rook. And after rook to a8, bishop to c4, my opponent resigned. And it's not just because he's down a piece, but there's nothing else for him to play at this point. If he plays, say, pawn to b3, I can play bishop takes pawn, and if rook from a5 takes a6, because the other way will just get you back rank mated, then here I can swap out the rooks, and then swap out the rooks here with rook takes bishop. He can't move away because, again, he'll get back rank mated. So after rook takes, bishop takes, I would be up 2 bishops for 1 pawn with an easily winning endgame. So let me know how you guys enjoyed the game, what you thought of the instructional value on how to play the Maroczy Bind, including from a Smith-Morra gambit. So this way, in the decline, you don't have to just allow your opponent to decline and you don't get to have any fun. You might not get your gambit off, but you can get the Maroczy Bind and maintain control throughout the game, leading to a miserable position for black. If you guys have any improvements or any theoretical knowledge further, please leave it in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And I hope that you guys enjoyed the game. There will be plenty more to come. Thank you guys for watching. Improve every day, and peace.